Hello, this will be our last chapter for this course, Chapter 7, Accounting for Retained Earnings. As I've told you in the previous video, uh, all earnings of the corporations are dumped or nilalagay lahat sa retained earnings. Hindi katulad sa partnership na at the end of the accounting period ay dinidistribute ang income based on their P&L ratio. Now, it is only the board of directors the policy-making body of the corporation, who can declare dividends, whether it's cash or stock or other asset dividends. Now, with this chapter, we will learn what are dividends in general, how do you distribute, paano nagdi-distribute sa preferred shares depending on the conditions, and preparation of retained earnings and preparation of statement of changes in all shareholders' equity, and of course, how to calculate the book value per share and the earnings per share. Now, our book naman is very thorough, and as long as you read it and anuhin nyo at namnamin nyo ang laman, ang sinasabi, ay madaling maintindihan. Now, allow me to start with prior period errors. Prior period errors are usually mga pagkakamali na nadidiscover after closing the book at the end of the accounting period. So, sa partnership at saka sa sole proprietorship, since nung halimbawa ang end of the accounting period is December 31 at na-distribute na ang profit at na-close na ang books at may na-discovering error noong January, ang pag-a-adjust noon ay sa capital. Now, sa corporation naman, what you adjust the losses or the error with your retained earnings, not sa capital. Okay, that's the big difference. Now, there are times that retained earnings has appropriations and unappropriated. Kasi minsan, halimbawa, may future project ang kumpanya, sabi ng board of directors, kukuha tayo ng 1 million dito sa retained earnings at hindi natin i-distribute yan. Ang tawag doon ng appropriated retained earnings. Meaning to say, hindi nila pwedeng galawin kung hindi para doon sa project na pinaplano nila. Now, what are dividends in general? Take note that retained earnings ay hindi cash yan. Yun ang net accumulated earnings of the corporation, and it is not waiting to be distributed. Again, the board of directors may or may not declare dividends, but it does not necessarily mean that yung buong retained earnings ay i-distribute. It all depends on the cash flow of the corporation. Now, there are important dates in the declaration in dividends. The date of declaration, the date of record, and the date of payment. So, tatlo yan. Anong diferensya nun? Date of declaration is in the date when the board of directors adopted a resolution declaring that there will be a dividends to be paid. Yun ang kung kailan nagdesisyon. Date of record naman are the list of shareholders entitled to declare dividend to receive the declared dividends. Kasi malimit minsan, lalo na yung malalaking korporasyon, malikot ang malimit ang list ng shareholders. So sasabihin ng board of directors, on December 20, on March 15, halimbawa March 15 yan, the board of directors declared that there will be dividends for stockholders or shareholders listed as of December 31 of the previous year. Kasi maaaring ng January 1 the following year, may nabago na, may nagbenta, may bumili na mas malaki, may nagbenta na mas maliit, and so on and so forth. And of course, the date of payment. So usually, pag sasabihin ng board of directors, halimbawa March 31, 2022. On March 31, 2022, the board of directors passed a resolution or approved a resolution to declare a 10% cash dividends of all outstanding shares of stocks for all outstanding shares of stocks listed as of December 31, 2021. And it will be paid on April 15, 2022. Ganun yan. So, again, as I have told you before, very important sa accounting and dates. So, tatandaan yan. When you declare dividends, there are several entries. First, halimbawa cash, walang problema yan. Debit retained earnings, doon mo kukuhanin sa retained earnings. Credit cash dividends payable. That is on the date of declaration. And on the date of payment, magde-debit ka naman ng cash dividends payable and credit cash. Kasi binayaran mo na yan. Ganun kadali. Now, there are times that dividends are not paid in cash, but sometimes properties or other assets. Like this one, this illustration on page 7-5. The distribution of shareholder that is payable in non-cash assets is generally referred to as property dividends or dividends in kind. So, considering the illustration on page 7-5, nag-declare ng dividend na with the fair market value of invested shares of stocks, ang pambibigay nilang dividendo. Kasi maaaring ang korporasyon ay nag-invest sa ibang korporasyon at sabi nila, sige, ito na lang ibigay nating dividendo. So debit retained earnings, credit property dividends payable because hindi cash ang dineclare na ipamimigay. And on the date of payment, property dividends payable, credit investment. Siyempre, nung bilhin ng korporasyon yung stock sa other corporation, investment nila yon. Ayan. So, that's the main difference. Now, share, minsan, ang sasabihin ng korporasyon ng board of directors, ang ating ipimimigay na dividendo ay stock dividends o share ng ating kumpanya. So, there are two approaches. One is a small share dividend and the other one is the large share dividends. Now, small share dividends, ang pamimigay dividendo, ang pamimigay na dividendo ay shares of stock din ng kumpanya. Iba yung property dividends kasi yung dineclare nilang dividends ay investment nila, asset nila. Okay? Now, so pag share dividends nga, there are two types. Small share dividends and large share dividends. The only difference, same entry rin. The only difference is, and how do you differentiate the small and the big, large? Pag 20%, less than 20% ang ng outstanding shares ang i-declare as share dividends, you use the current market value or the stated value. Pag large dividends naman, meaning to say more than 20% of the outstanding shares of stocks, ang i-declare nila as share dividends, you use the par value. Entries, of course, are still the same. Okay? And it's well explained in the book. Now, ano naman yung liquidating dividends? Dividends are not distributions of earnings but rather returns of capital to the investing shareholders. Ibig sabihin, nagsasara na yung kumpanya at liquidating dividends na ibinabalik na unti-unti yung kapital. Now, itong pag-aralan nyo maigi. Share splits. Halimbawa, ang total shares mo ay 5 shares lang. At nag-declare ng 10% share dividends. So, theoretically, ang dapat mo matanggap ay 10% of 5 is 0.5 share, kalahating share. Hindi pwede yon. Kaya sinasabi na it's either you sell it, you buy the other half kasi 0.5 lang ang share mo sa dividend. And the other half is para mabuo ang isa ay kailangan bayaran yung kalahati. Share split ang tawag. Dito tayo magfo-focus sa dividends on preference and ordinary shares. Dito natin medyo hahaba-habaan ng konti. Now, as I have told you, there are 2 types of shares, ordinary and preference shares. Now, yung ordinary, difference is may voting rights ang ordinary shares. Ang preference shares, voting rights, and you can be voted upon to be a member of the board. Yun ang pag-ordinary shareholder ka. Pag preference shareholder ka naman, meron kang karapatang makakuha agad, prioridad ka, kaya tinawag na preference, preferred kang bigyan ng dividendo. However, there are 4 conditions. 4 conditions that are usually written in your shares of stocks ng preference shares. One is non-cumulative and non-participating, non-cumulative and participating, and 3, cumulative and non-participating, and cumulative and participating. Ano ba yon? Pag sinabing cumulative, pag hindi ka binigyan pag hindi nag-declare ng dividends on board, remember, pag nag-declare lang ng dividends on board, saka ka pa lamang pwedeng kung mabigyan ng dividendo. Pag hindi nag-declare ng dividends on board, walang dividendo maski sa ordinary. So, pag halimbawa, 5 taong hindi nag-declare ng dividends ang korporasyon kasi hindi maganda ang negosyo, pag ang iyong preference shares ay cumulative, uunahin yung 5 taong yon bago bigyan ang ordinary. Okay? Pag sinabi namang participating, pagkatapos kang mabigyan at kung may natitira pa, ay kasali ka pa rin doon sa bibigyan kahati or depende sa percentage ng ordinary shares. Kaya kung ang iyong preference shares ay non-cumulative and non-participating, wala kang aasahang 5 taon halimbawang dividendum back pay at hindi ka kasali sa hatian sa ordinary shares. Pag non-cumulative at participating, hindi kasali yung nakaraan, pero kasali ka pa sa matitira. Pagkatapos kang bigyan mauna, kung magkano man percentage mo dapat makuha, at may natira pa, saka kahati ka pa rin ng ordinary shares. Pag sinabi namang cumulative and non-participating, kung 5 taong hindi nag-declare ng dividend, uunahin yung 5 taon kung magkano man ang percentage mo. At hindi ka naman kasali sa matitira sa ordinary shares ng lahat yun. Ito pinakamasarap. Cumulative na participating na. Halimbawa, 5 taong hindi nagbigay ng dividendo. Yung 5 taon na yon, bibigyan mo na ikaw, preference. Tapos kung may matitira pa, ay kahati ka pa rin ng ordinary shares. There is an example, illustrative problem here in page 7-10. Now, Dom Dane Publishers, the Premier Publishing, has a 12% preference shares, 100 par, authorized 4,000, 2,000 shares, issued and outstanding, 200,000. Ibig sabihin nito, yung preference shares, ang nabibili pa lamang ay 2,000, pero ang authorized nila, sabi ng SEC, ay 4,000. Ang par value 100, kaya naman 200,000. Ang kanyang dapat kitain taon-taon ay 12% per year. And Dom Dane has an ordinary share of 100 par, authorized 6,000, 3,000 na issued and outstanding. So kaya 300,000. Meron siyang retained earnings of 260. The board failed to declare dividends for the past 2 years. So 2 taong hindi nag-declare. The current year results of operation gave the board reasons to declare cash dividend of 200,000. Kung ang preference shares ay non-cumulative and non-participating, bibigyan yan lang para sa current year kasi hindi cumulative. So, 12% daw, 12% of 200,000, 24,000, and the remainder na niyan lahat ay sa ordinary. So, pag nag-present kayo, dapat ganyan, ha? Now, since it's non-cumulative, maski hindi nagbayad ng 2 taon, hindi nababayaran yung 2 taong nakaraan. Okay? Now, in non-participating, hindi na siya nakasali sa natitira. Pabor yan sa ordinary shares. Now, paano naman kung non-cumulative and participating siya? So, same problem, same illustrative problem. 2 years na hindi binigay. So, hindi kasali na. Wala na yun, hindi nabibigyan. Kasi non-cumulative. Ang bibigyan lang, current year, 200,000 times 12 is 24,000. Current ordinary dividends, 300,000 times 12%, 36,000. And the remainder for participation. Sabi kasi, participating. Magkano natitira? 140,000. Kasi 200 minus 24 minus 36. 140,000. Preference shares 2/5 times 140. And ordinary shares 3/5. So nakuha yung 2/5. 2,000 ang outstanding shares ng preference at 3,000 ang outstanding share ng ordinary. So ganyan ang magiging hatian. Now, the third condition, third option, cumulative pero non-participating. So, 2 years daw hindi binigyan. Preference 200,000 times 12 times 2 per 2 years. 48,000. For the first 2 sa 2 years hindi binera. May current year pa, babayaran din yan, 24,000. And the remainder to be given to ordinary shares. Magkano balanse? Yung ika-4 ang pinakamaganda. Cumulative na, participating pa. So, 2 years na binigyan, na hindi binigyan, bibigyan mo na ng 48. Current year, 24. Tapos, bibigyan ng ordinary shares, 300,000 times 12%. Remainder for participation, magkano natitira? 92,000 daw. Because 200,000 minus 48 minus 24 minus 36 equals 92,000. Preference shares, 2/5 times 92 and so on and so forth. Mas malaki ang share ng preference. Now, how do you compute for dividends per share? Total dividends divided by outstanding shares of stocks. Yan. So, malinaw yan. Oh, by the way, after 2 days, I might send to you assignments which you will discuss, which you will prepare on your own, and we will have a synchronous class towards the end of the week. Yung 1A will probably join the other classes na. Sorry ha, sobrang busy lang ako lately. Yan, na-discuss na natin prior period. Adjustments or errors. Now, meron din itong sinasabi na restrictions on retained earnings. Sinabi ko yung kanina. Halimbawa, may project worth 1 million. Sabi ng board of directors, may project tayo worth 1 million. Isubi na muna natin. Ibawas natin sa ating retained earnings. Mag-e-entry lang yan. Debit retained earnings and credit appropriated retained earnings. Ibig sabihin, naka-appropriate na yung 1 million na yan. Hindi pwedeng galawin. Unless of course hindi matuloy, saka natin i-reverse yan. Okay? Now, preparation of statement of retained earnings and shareholders equity. That's the only format I will accept. 7-16 and 7-15. Book values per share. Makikita yan dito rin. So how do you compute for the book value per share? It's illustrated here. I will try to upload this until tomorrow, Monday, May 23, and I will message you all in our group chat. Thank you.